Well, now, I reckon it's about time we take ourselves a little walk up into the high country. The sun's just about right this morning, hanging there over the eastern ridge like a gold coin somebody set on the edge of the world. I've been sitting here on this porch a good long while, watching the way that light changes color as it comes down through the valley, starting out all pink and orange like the inside of a conch shell, then turning to that soft yellow that reminds me of fresh churned butter. My walking stick's leaning right here against the porch rail where I left it yesterday evening. That's a good piece of hickory, that stick. I cut it myself maybe 20 years back from a tree that had gone down in a windstorm up on the north slope of Bald Knob. The wood was already dried out some when I found it, seasoned by the weather, which made it just about perfect. I spent the better part of a winter working on that stick, sitting right here in this same rocker, shaving it down with my old case knife until it fit my hand just so. There's a knot about halfway up that looks for all the world like an owl's eye. And just below the handle, I carved some notches to mark the years, though I don't rightly remember now what years I was counting. The wood's gone smooth as river stone from all the handling, worn down by my palm and fingers until it's got this soft shine to it, almost like it's been oiled, though it ain't. That's just the natural oils from my own hands, worked into the grain over all these seasons. When I pick it up now, wrapping my fingers around that curved handle, it feels like shaking hands with an old friend. The weight of it is just right, not too heavy, not too light, balanced in a way that makes walking easier instead of harder. I give it a little tap on the porch boards, and it makes that solid sound that good hickory makes, not hollow like some woods, but dense and true. I got my old canvas coat on, the one with the game pocket in the back. It used to be dark green, I reckon, but the sun and the rain have faded it down to something more like the color of sage, or maybe like the moss that grows on the north side of the oaks. There's a patch on the elbow where I tore on some barbed wire 5 or 6 years back, and the cuffs are frayed some, but it's broken in just perfect. Soft as doeskin in all the right places and still sturdy enough to turn the briars. In my left pocket, I got my old Barlow knife, the one my daddy gave me when I wasn't but 12 years old. The handle's made of bone, yellowed with age, and the blade's been sharpened so many times it's worn down to maybe half what it used to be. But it still holds an edge fine. And that's what matters. In my right pocket, there's a little cloth sack, just big enough to hold whatever treasures the woods might offer up today. And in my shirt pocket, tucked up safe, I got a little book that belonged to my grandmother, with pressed flowers between the pages and her handwriting on the margins, naming things in the old way. Now I step down off this porch, and my boots meet the hard-packed dirt of the yard. These are good boots, broke in over many a mile, the leather creased and scarred, but still sound. They know the way as well as I do. The yard here is mostly bare earth, swept clean the old way, though there's chickweed and plantain trying to come up around the edges, where the sweeping don't quite reach. The chickens are already out, scratching and muttering to themselves, over by the garden fence, and the old rooster's up on the gate post, watching me with that sideways look chickens have, like he's considering whether I might have brought him something worth eating. I pass by the chopping block, where I split my firewood, and the woodpile stacked up against the shed, each piece laid in careful so the air can get through and keep it all dry. There's the smell of that wood in the air, oak and hickory and a little bit of cedar, all mixed together with the smell of the dirt and the growing things and the morning itself, which has its own particular scent if you pay attention. It's the smell of dew drying off the grass, and the first warmth of the sun heating up the earth, and something green and living that I can't quite put a name to, but I'd know anywhere. The garden's just starting to come on. I can see where the bean plants are poking up through the soil, and the potato hills are showing their first leaves, still that tender pale green of new growth. The onions I planted back in March are already a few inches tall, their tubular leaves standing straight and proud. I make a note to myself to come back later and check on them, maybe pull a few weeds that are thinking about getting started between the rows. Now I'm walking toward the tree line, where the yard gives way to the woods proper. There's a little transition zone here, maybe 10 or 15 feet wide, where the forest is trying to reclaim what used to be its territory. There's blackberry canes and wild roses and sumac saplings, all fighting for space. And underfoot, the grass gets longer and coarser, mixed with wild strawberry plants that'll have berries come June if the birds don't get them all first. The walking stick taps a steady rhythm as I go, a soft thump with each step, and I can feel the ground changing under my feet, getting softer, more giving. The soil here at the edge holds more moisture, fed by the shade and the leaf mold, and there's moss starting to show in patches, that bright green moss that grows so thick in the deep woods. And then I'm crossing over, stepping from the sunlight into the shade, and it's like walking into a different room of a house. The temperature drops maybe 10 degrees all at once, and the air changes. Out in the yard, it was warm and dry, smelling of sun-heated earth and growing vegetables. Here, just a few steps into the trees, it's cool and damp, and the air is thick with the smell of the forest. That rich green smell of growing things and rotting things all mixed together, the smell of life and death doing their eternal dance. The canopy overhead is just beginning to fill in with spring leaves, that new growth that's still pale and tender, not the deep dark green of summer yet, but that lighter shade, almost yellow-green, that lets the sunlight filter through in shifting patterns. When the breeze moves through up there, the light dapples and dances on the forest floor, moving like water, bright patches and shadows trading places in a slow, dreamy rhythm that could hypnotize a person if they stood still long enough to watch. The ground here is covered with last autumn's leaves, oak and hickory, and poplar, all broken down some by the winter, but still thick enough to make a carpet. They're dry on top from these last few days of good weather, and they rustle and whisper under my boots, making that particular sound that only dry leaves can make, a sort of whispery crunching that changes tone depending on what kind of leaf you're stepping on. The oak leaves make a crisper sound, while the hickory leaves are softer somehow, and the big poplar leaves have a kind of papery quality to their rustle. My walking stick finds its rhythm on this new ground, sinking in just a little bit with each step, the point of it finding its way between the leaves to the damp earth underneath. I can feel through the stick how the ground changes, harder here where a root runs close to the surface, softer there where the soil is deep and rich. I'm following an old path that's been here longer than I have, probably longer than anybody can remember. It's not much of a path, really, just a line of less resistance through the trees, worn down over the years by deer and people, and whoever else has had occasion to walk this way. In some places you can barely see it at all, and then it'll show itself clear for a stretch, a little depression in the leaves, a place where the undergrowth grows a bit thinner. The trees here are mostly oak and hickory, big old fellows that have been growing for who knows how long. Their trunks are thick and deeply furrowed, the bark creating patterns like rivers on a map, or like the lines in an old person's face, each crack and crevice telling some story about weather survived and seasons endured. Some of these trees I've known all my life, and I'll tell you they don't change much in a single lifetime. They were big when I was a boy, and they're big still, maybe a little bigger, but not so's you'd notice year to year. There's a big white oak just up ahead here. Must be 4 feet across at the base, its roots spreading out over the ground like the fingers of a giant hand reaching into the earth. The bark is almost silver in places, especially on the north side where the weather has worn it smooth. I stopped for just a moment and put my hand flat against that bark, feeling the texture of it, the coolness of it even now, with the sun up. The trees solid, immovable, patient. It'll be here long after I'm gone, I reckon, standing watch over this hollow same as it always has. Moving on, I noticed the small things that most folks might walk right past. There's a patch of moss on a fallen log, bright green and thick as a carpet, and when I touch it gentle-like with my fingertip, it's soft and damp and cool. Near the moss, there's a cluster of tiny mushrooms, no bigger around than a pencil eraser, their caps a delicate shade of brown like milky coffee. I don't know what kind they are exactly, but they're pretty in their own small way, growing in a perfect little fairy ring. The dogwoods are blooming now, scattered through the understory like somebody scattered white handkerchiefs through the woods. Their flowers aren't really flowers at all, I learned once, but something called bracts, though they look like flowers, and that's what matters. Each bloom has 4 white petals, or what looks like petals anyway, with a little notch at the tip of each one. And in the center, there's a cluster of tiny greenish flowers that are the real flowers, though you have to look close to see them proper. Under the dogwoods, the forest floor is starting to green up with springtime. The Mayappoles are coming up, their umbrella-like leaves still folded like parasols that haven't quite opened yet. In a few weeks, they'll spread out flat and hide their white flowers underneath where you have to duck down to see them. The trilliums are already blooming here and there. They're 3-petaled flowers white, or sometimes dark red, each one sitting on top of 3 broad leaves in a way that looks almost too perfect to be natural, like something a person designed on purpose. I'm walking slow, in no particular hurry, letting my eyes adjust deeper to the forest light, letting my ears tune in to the sounds that are always here if you take the time to listen. There's a woodpecker working on a dead snag somewhere off to my right, that steady hammering that echoes through the trees. I can't see him from here, but I know the sound. Probably a pileated, from the strength of it. Those big crow-sized woodpeckers with the red crests that look like they're wearing Indian headdresses. A squirrel's chattering somewhere up ahead, that scratchy scolding sound they make when they think you might be a threat or just when they feel like complaining, which seems to be most of the time. I catch a glimpse of him now, just a flash of gray fur and a bushy tail as he runs up the far side of an oak trunk, then peeks around at me with one bright black eye, his tail twitching with what might be irritation or might just be nervous energy. The breeze is moving through the high branches, making a sound like water flowing, or like whispering voices too far away to make out the words. It's a sound that's always present in the forest, background music you barely notice until it stops and the silence feels strange. The new leaves up there are trembling and turning in the light, showing their pale undersides, then their darker tops, a constant gentle motion that's restful to watch. Now I'm coming into a little draw where the ground slopes down toward a seasonal creek. This time of year, with the spring rains we've had, there's water running in it, though come summer, it'll be dry as a bone. The water's running clear over smooth stones, making that burbling, chuckling sound that moving water makes, each tone determined by the size of the stone and the speed of the current and the depth of the water. The ground here is damper, and the leaves are matted down and darker, starting to break down into the soil. The smell is richer here too. That dark, earthy smell of decay and growth all mixed together. The smell of things returning to the earth to feed the next generation of growing things. It's not an unpleasant smell, though I know some folks wrinkle their nose at it. To me, it smells like life itself, like the way things are supposed to be. Everything connected in one big circle. And here, right here where the ground is damp and the leaf litter is thick, this is where I start to look careful for the dry land fish. That's what we always called morel mushrooms, on account of the way they look with all those pits and ridges, like a fish that's been dried in the sun. They're particular about where they grow, morels are. They like certain kinds of trees, especially old dead elms and dying ash trees, and they like the ground to be just the right temperature and moisture. I slow down even more now, moving careful, my eyes scanning the ground with the kind of attention a hawk gives to a field when he's hunting mice. Morels are masters of camouflage, their brownish color and their textured surface, making them blend right in with the dead leaves and the bark and the shadows. You can look right at one and not see it if your eyes aren't adjusted right. If you're not looking with that soft focus that lets you see patterns instead of individual objects. I use the walking stick to steady myself as I move, taking small steps, pausing often, turning my head this way and that to let the light hit things from different angles. Sometimes you can spot them better from the corner of your eye than looking straight on. I'm looking for that conical shape, that honeycomb texture, that particular way they catch the light. There's a dead elm up ahead, been dead maybe 3 or 4 years now, its bark sloughing off in patches, the naked wood underneath going silver gray in the weather. The base of it is surrounded by a carpet of leaves, and I move toward it slow and careful, because if there's morels anywhere in this hollow, they'll be near that tree. I circle around it, maybe 10 feet out, walking careful, my old knees complaining some as I crouch down to get a better angle on the ground. The light's coming in sideways here through a gap in the canopy, and it's making long shadows that help things stand out. And there, right there at the base of a little rise in the roots, I spot the first one. It's about as tall as my thumb, maybe a little taller, that classic morel shape like a pointed sponge. Its color a soft grayish tan that's almost the same as the dead leaves around it. The cap is covered with pits and ridges in that random pattern that no two are exactly alike, like snowflakes or fingerprints. The stem is pale and hollow and smooth, anchored in the leaf litter like a tiny tree. I feel that little thrill I always feel when I find the first one, that sense of discovery and gift, like the forest has decided to share one of its treasures with me. I kneel down, my old knees cracking a bit, and I reach out gentle and take hold of that mushroom at the base, and I give it a careful twist and pull. It comes up clean, bringing a little bit of the leaf litter with it, and I can see where the stem was attached to the mycelium underneath. That network of fungus threads, that's the real organism, the mushroom just being its fruit. I hold it up to the light and look at it close, checking for any signs of worms or rot, but it's clean and perfect, fresh and firm. I bring it close to my face and smell it, and it has that earthy mushroom smell, clean and somehow both rich and delicate at the same time. I place it careful in my cloth sack and tie the sack closed again, and I stand up slow, letting my knees straighten out gradual. Now that I've found one, I know there'll be more. Morels tend to grow in groups, and my eyes are adjusted now to seeing them. I continue my slow circle around the dead elm. And sure enough, there's another one and another, scattered around in what seems like a random pattern, but probably isn't. Each one I find is a little different in size and shape, but all of them have that unmistakable Morel character. I take my time harvesting them, being careful not to take too many from one spot, leaving some of the smaller ones to mature and spread their spores for next year's crop. This is something my grandfather taught me when I was just a boy, and his grandfather taught him, I reckon. You never take everything the woods has to offer. You take what you need, and you leave the rest to ensure there'll be more another day. Each mushroom I add to my sack makes a soft rustling sound against the others, and I can feel the weight of them growing, that satisfying weight of a successful foray. When I've circled the tree completely and found all I'm going to find in this spot, I've got maybe a dozen good morels, enough for a fine meal, and then some. I straighten up and take a moment to just stand still and listen. The woodpeckers moved on to another tree farther away, and the squirrel's gone quiet. There's a bird singing somewhere up high, a wood thrush maybe, with that flute-like song that echoes through the forest like something from another world, pure and clear and almost sorrowful in its beauty. Now I'm thinking about ramps, wild leeks as some folks call them, which ought to be coming on strong this time of year. They like different conditions than morels, preferring the rich soil on north-facing slopes where it stays a bit cooler and damper. I know a place not far from here, maybe a quarter-mile up the hollow, where they grow thick some years. I head that direction, following the little creek upstream. The water's running livelier here where the grade is steeper, tumbling over rocks and creating little waterfalls, no more than a few inches high, but each one adding its voice to the overall music of the creek. The stones in the creek bed are smooth and rounded, worn down by countless years of water flowing over them, and they're every color you can imagine, grays and browns and reds, and even some with streaks of white quartz running through them like lightning frozen in stone. There's ferns growing along the creek bank, their fiddleheads just starting to unfurl, still tight coiled at the top, but beginning to spread their fronds lower down. In another few weeks, this whole slope will be green with ferns, but for now, they're still in that in-between stage. Part of the old year still brown and dead, part of the new year fresh and green. I have to step across the creek here, where it narrows between two rocks, and I use my walking stick to test the footing before I can make my weight. The rocks are damp and could be slippery, but they're solid, and I make it across without incident, though my knees let me know they'd rather I not ask them to do things like that too often. The slope rises steeper now, and I'm walking uphill, my breathing getting a little heavier, my heart working a little harder. The walking stick becomes more than just a companion now. It's a third leg, a support, taking some of the work off my knees and giving me something to push against. The rhythm of walking uphill is different from walking on the level, more deliberate, each step a small commitment. I can see the change in the forest as I climb. The trees are still big oaks and hickories, but there's more basswood mixed in now, and the understory is thicker with spicebush and pawpaw. The soil has that darker, richer look that tells you it's good earth, deep and fertile, the kind of soil that grows good timber and good crops and good wild things. And the smell, I'm noticing the smell now. That oniony, garlicky smell that tells me I'm getting close to where the ramps grow. It's faint at first, just a hint on the breeze, but it gets stronger as I climb higher until there's no mistaking it. That's the smell of ramps, wild and pungent and unmistakable. I crest a little rise, and there they are, a whole hillside of them. Their broad leaves carpet the ground like something planted in a garden, except this is all wild, all natural, been growing here probably since long before there were people in these mountains to harvest them. The leaves are a deep green, broader than a man's hand, with a smooth glossy surface that catches the light, and they emerge from the ground in clusters, sometimes 2 or 3 leaves coming from a single bulb underground. I stand there for a moment, just taking in the sight of it, feeling grateful for the abundance, for the generosity of these woods. Then I kneel down again, my knees protesting less this time, because they know what we're about, and I start to dig careful with my fingers in the soft earth. The bulbs are down there a few inches, white and tender with purple streaks, shaped like little elongated teardrops. Each bulb has roots like fine white threads spreading out in all directions, anchoring it in the soil and drawing up nutrients. I loosen the soil around one plant, working my fingers down careful so as not to bruise the bulb, and I pull it up gentle, shaking off the excess dirt. The whole plant comes up together, bulb and roots and leaves, and I can smell it strong now. That sharp onion garlic smell that's so powerful, it almost makes my eyes water. I pinch off some of the roots and shake off the dirt, and I add it to my sack with the morels. I want to keep them separate, really, so I take a moment to rearrange things, tying the sack closed over the morels and tucking the ramps in my coat pocket instead. I move through the ramp patch slow and respectful, taking one plant here, another there, never more than one from a cluster, leaving plenty to regenerate and spread. This is another thing I learned young, that the woods will provide if you don't get greedy, but if you take too much one year, there might not be enough the next. It's about balance, about respect, about understanding that we're part of this system, not above it. The work is slow and meditative, kneeling and digging and harvesting, then moving a few feet and doing it again. The earth is cool and slightly damp against my fingers, and it packs under my nails, and I don't mind one bit. There's something honest about having dirt on your hands, something that connects you to the realness of things. My coat pocket is getting heavier with ramps, and I can smell them strong. That wild, sharp smell that they'll linger on my hands for days, no matter how much I wash them. When I've got enough, maybe 20 or 30 good plants, I stop and stand up slow, brushing the dirt off my hands as best I can. My knees are getting tired now, letting me know that kneeling and getting up repeatedly is work they'd rather not do all day. I take a moment to stretch, rolling my shoulders, arching my back a little, feeling the small protests of a body that's seen more than 7 decades of use. I decide to rest for a bit, and there's a fallen log nearby, big around as a barrel, been down for a few years, but still solid. The bark is mostly gone, and the wood has that silvery weathered look, smooth enough to sit on without getting splinters. I lower myself down onto it careful, and the wood is cool even through my pants, and I'm glad for the rest. I set my walking stick across my knees and just sit quiet for a while, listening to the forest, watching the light change as clouds move across the sun somewhere high above the canopy. A raven calls from somewhere up on the ridge. That deep croaking call that sounds almost like it's speaking words in some language we've forgotten. Another raven answers from farther away, and I imagine them up there, big black birds soaring on the updrafts, seeing these mountains spread out below them like a rumpled green blanket. The air is so fresh up here, so clean, like it's been filtered through all these miles of forest, all these thousands of trees breathing in and breathing out, taking the stale and giving back the fresh. I take a deep breath of it, filling my lungs all the way down, and I can taste it, that green living taste of springtime in the mountains. There's a chipmunk working somewhere nearby. I can hear him rustling in the leaves, probably gathering seeds or nuts he cached last fall, and is just now remembering where he put them. I stay still and wait, and after a minute he shows himself. Hopping up onto a rock, maybe 20 feet away, his cheeks stuffed full of something, his tail sticking straight up. He freezes when he sees me, just his whiskers twitching, his bright black eyes sizing me up, trying to decide if I'm a threat. I don't move, barely breathe, and after a long moment, he decides I'm not worth worrying about, and he scurries off, disappearing into a crack between two rocks. I'm thinking now about all the people who've walked these woods before me, who've sat on this very log maybe, or one like it long since rotted away. These mountains are old, old beyond reckoning, and people have been living in them and off of them for longer than anybody knows. Cherokee folks were here first, walking these same ridges, gathering these same ramps and morels, drinking from these same springs. Then came the Scots-Irish settlers, my own ancestors among them, pushing back into these hollers, looking for land and freedom and a place to make a life. I think about my grandfather, who taught me most of what I know about these woods, who walked these same paths with his grandfather, knowledge handed down person to person, generation to generation, not written in books, but carried in memory and practice. He'd bring me up here when I was just a sprout, no more than 6 or 7 years old, and he'd show me things, teach me things, not in a schoolhouse way, but in a woods way, by doing and watching and listening. He taught me which plants were good to eat and which ones would make you sick. He taught me how to find water, how to read the weather in the clouds and the wind, how to move quiet through the forest without disturbing things too much. He taught me respect too, taught me that these mountains and these woods didn't belong to us, we belonged to them. And we were just passing through, borrowing them for a little while. I can almost hear his voice now, rough and soft at the same time, like it had been smoked and cured like ham, telling me stories about the old days, about how things used to be. He'd talk about the chestnuts that used to grow here, huge trees that covered these mountains before the blight came and killed them all. He said you could walk for miles in the fall and never step off a carpet of chestnuts, more than all the people and all the hogs in the mountains could ever eat. They're all gone now, those big chestnuts, killed by a disease that came from somewhere far away, and what's left are just the stumps, still visible here and there in the woods, huge rotting reminders of what used to be. I pull myself back to the present, to the here and now, to the log under me and the forest around me. No sense dwelling too long in the past, even though the past is always here in these mountains, layered into everything like sediment in a riverbed. I stand up from the log, joints creaking a little, and I pick up my walking stick and head on up the hollow. I'm thinking now about the spring I know is up here, a place where water comes bubbling right up out of the ground, cold and clean and sweet. I could use a drink, and my old canteen is empty. The ground levels out some as I get higher, and the character of the forest changes again. There's more rock showing through up here. Big mossy boulders scattered around like a giant child got tired of playing with them and left them where they fell. Some of these rocks are bigger than a house, and they're covered with moss and lichen, green and gray, and sometimes orange, creating patterns like abstract paintings on their surfaces. I'm watching for the signs now, the subtle changes that tell me I'm getting close to the spring. The vegetation gets a little more lush, the moss gets a little thicker, and there's certain plants that only grow where there's water close by. Mountain laurel is thick here, not blooming yet, but getting ready to. The buds tight and pink on the ends of the branches. Rhododendron too, big dark glossy leaves that stay green all winter. Their branches twisted and gnarled and growing so thick in places you'd have to crawl to get through. And then I hear it, that sound of water, just a faint trickling at first, but getting clearer as I move toward it. The spring is tucked in between two big rocks, like the mountain itself, his cupped hands offering up water. It's bubbling up from somewhere deep in the earth, flowing out over a bed of white sand that it's been depositing there, probably for thousands of years, creating a little pool, maybe 3 feet across, before it overflows and starts down the mountain as a tiny stream. I kneel down beside it, the same knees that have been complaining about all this kneeling, but I reckon they'll forgive me for one more. The water is crystal clear, so clear I can count the grains of sand at the bottom, and it's cold, mountain cold, the kind of cold that makes your teeth ache if you drink it too fast. I cup my hands together and dip them in, and the cold goes right through. I bring my hands up, water dripping between my fingers, and I drink. And it's the best water I've ever tasted, like every time is the first time. It tastes clean and sweet, with just a hint of mineral, the taste of the mountain itself, of limestone and roots and the deep, dark earth. I drink again and again, until I've had my fill, water running down my chin and dripping onto my coat. And I don't care one bit. I sit back on my heels and just watch the water for a while, the way it bubbles up and flows, never stopping, never changing, constant as the sunrise. This spring has been here probably as long as the mountains themselves, flowing before there were people to drink from it, and it'll keep flowing long after we're all gone. There's something comforting about that, something bigger than ourselves, something eternal in a world where most things are temporary. There's a dipper gourd hanging from a tree branch nearby, left there by someone, maybe me, maybe someone else, for anyone who comes along thirsty. It's dried and hollowed out, perfect for dipping water, and I take it down and fill it and drink from it too. Just because that's the way it's meant to be used. The gourd is smooth and light, and it holds the cold water good, and drinking from it feels right somehow, feels connected to old ways and old times. I hang the gourd back where it belongs and stand up, using my stick for support. My coat pocket is heavy with ramps. My sack has Morels in it. My belly is full of cold spring water, and I'm feeling about as wealthy as a person can feel. These are the treasures of the mountains, not gold or silver, but mushrooms and greens and clean water, things you can't buy in any store, things that only the woods can provide to those who know how to look. I decide to head on over toward the old home place before I turn back. It's not far from here, just over the next ridge. A place I like to visit when I'm in this part of the woods. The walking is easier now, the ground more level, and I settle into that rhythm where the walking stick and my feet and my breathing all sync up, and I'm just moving through the forest like water flows in a stream, natural and easy. The trees up here are different, more beech and maple mixed in with the oak, and the ground underneath is carpeted with last year's beech leaves, which don't decay as fast as other leaves and tend to stick around longer. They're a warm brown color, and they make a softer rustling sound under my feet, almost like paper. A deer's been through here recently. I can see her tracks in a muddy spot. The neat heart-shaped prints, clear and sharp-edged. She was walking, not running, probably browsing on the new growth. I pause and look around, wondering if she might still be nearby. But the woods are quiet except for the usual sounds, and I reckon she heard me coming a long time ago and moved off to give me space. There's an old fence line up ahead, or what's left of one. The posts rotted down to nubs, the wire rusted and broken, and mostly grown over with vines and saplings. This was the boundary of somebody's land once, marked out and fenced to keep stock in or out. I don't know which. But the fence is long past serving any purpose now, just another layer of history being slowly swallowed by the forest. I cross over where the fence used to be, and I'm in what was once a cleared field, though you'd hardly know it now, except for the different kind of trees growing here. These are all second growth, younger trees that came up after the field was abandoned, tulip poplars mostly, which are always the first to colonize open land. They're good-sized now, maybe 60 or 70 feet tall, but they're still young compared to the old growth forest I was walking through before. And there, just ahead, is the home place, or what's left of it. There's a pile of rocks that used to be a chimney, still standing maybe 6 feet high, moss-covered and slowly falling apart as frost and rain do their patient work. The rest of the cabin is long gone, rotted back into the earth, but you can still see the outline of it in the ground, a rectangular depression where the floorboards used to be, and piles of rocks at the corners where the foundation was laid. I stand there quiet, looking at it, thinking about who might have lived here, what their lives might have been like. The cabin probably wasn't much, just a simple log structure, one room or maybe two, with a loft for sleeping. But it was someone's home, someone's place in the world, where they cooked their meals and slept at night and raised their children and grew old. There's a sense of melancholy about abandoned places, about the way the forest takes them back. But there's something beautiful about it too, something right. We build our structures and live our lives and think we're making something permanent. But the truth is, we're all just temporary, all just passing through. The forest was here before us, and it'll be here after us, patient and eternal, waiting to reclaim what we borrowed for a little while. I walk around the foundation, my walking stick tapping on the stones that somebody laid here with their own hands, maybe 100 years ago, maybe more. There's lilacs growing wild nearby, probably planted by whoever lived here, and they're just starting to bloom, their purple flowers heavy with scent. Lilacs are like that. They outlast the houses they were planted beside, growing wild and blooming year after year long, after the people who planted them are forgotten. There's daffodils too, naturalized now, spreading in clumps around what must have been the dooryard. Their yellow flowers are bright against the brown of the forest floor, cheerful and somehow sad at the same time. I think about a woman planting these bulbs, maybe missing a home she left behind somewhere else, maybe just wanting to make this rough place a little more beautiful. And here they are still, blooming faithful every spring, keeping vigil over a home that's gone. I find myself speaking out loud, though there's nobody here to hear me but the birds and the trees. I say a little blessing for whoever lived here, thank them for being part of these mountains, part of the long chain of people who've called this place home. I hope they had good lives. I hope they knew happiness here. I hope they felt the same connection to these woods that I feel. The sun has moved across the sky while I've been walking, and the light is different now, coming in at a steeper angle, making longer shadows. I check the position of it through the trees, and I reckon it's getting on toward mid-afternoon. Time to start thinking about heading back, though I'm in no particular hurry. I give the old home place one last look, committing it to memory again, though I've been here many times and probably will be again. Then I turn and head back the way I came, retracing my steps, following my own trail through the leaves. The walk back always feels different than the walk out, even when you're covering the same ground. The light's changed, the shadows fall different, and you're seeing things from a different direction. Plus, there's the satisfaction of a good walk completed, treasures found, a task well done. My legs are getting a little tired now. I can feel it in my thighs and knees, that heaviness that comes from several hours of walking rough ground. But it's a good tired, an earned tired, the kind that'll make sitting on the porch tonight with a cup of coffee feel extra fine. I pass back through the ramp patch, though I don't stop this time, and down the slope to the creek. The water seems louder now, or maybe I'm just paying better attention. I stop and drink again, kneeling down and dipping my hands in that cold, clear flow, splashing some on my face to wash away the dust and the tiredness. The walk down is easier on the lungs, but harder on the knees, all that downhill pressure putting stress on the joints. I take it slow, using my walking stick to take some of the weight, placing my feet careful on the slope. There's no prize for getting home fast, and these old knees have served me well enough that I figure I owe them the courtesy of not pushing too hard. I'm back in the older forest now, among the big oaks and hickories, and the light is golden and thick. That late afternoon light that photographers love, warm and rich and making everything glow. The air has warmed up some too, though it's still cool here in the shade, and I can smell the earth breathing, releasing the sense of a spring afternoon. A redstart is hunting insects in the branches overhead, flashing the orange patches on his wings and tail as he flits from branch to branch. He's so focused on his hunting that he doesn't even notice me standing there watching, and I get to enjoy the show for a good minute or two before he moves off deeper into the woods. The chickadees calling now, that cheerful dee-dee sound that always makes me smile. They're friendly little birds, chickadees, curious and bold. And if you stay still enough, sometimes they'll come right down and land on your hat to see if you've got anything interesting. I'm getting close to the edge of the woods now. I can tell by the way the light is changing, getting brighter ahead where the canopy thins out. A few more minutes and I cross that transition zone again, from forest to field, from shade to sun, from cool to warm. And there's my yard, and there's my house. Just as I left it this morning, though, it feels like I've been gone much longer. The chickens are settled in for the evening, roosting in the coop, and the last light of the day is painting the western sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. I make my way across the yard, my shadow stretching long ahead of me, and I climb the steps to the porch, each step a small effort, now that my legs are truly tired. I lean my walking stick against the rail where it belongs, and I lower myself into my rocking chair, and the relief of sitting after all that walking is profound. I take off my old canvas coat, carefully transferring the ramps from the pocket to the porch beside me, and I open my sack and look at the morels I've gathered. They're still perfect, still fresh, And tomorrow I'll cook them up with some of the ramps, and have a feast that no king in his palace could improve on. But for now I just sit, rocking slow in my chair, watching the light fade out of the sky, feeling that good tiredness in my muscles, that peaceful satisfaction that comes from a day well spent. My hands still smell like onions and earth, and I can taste the spring water on my lips, and I can hear the night sounds starting up. The first crickets, the first tree frogs, the whippoorwill starting his evening song somewhere out in the gathering dark. The mountains are settling into night, those old mountains that have seen so many nights before this one, and will see so many more after I am gone. And that's all right. That's the way of things. We're all just passing through, taking our turn in the light, gathering our wild treasures, walking our paths through the woods. I close my eyes and just rock, listening to the creak of the chair on the boards, feeling the cool evening air on my face, letting the peace of it all wash over me like a blessing. Tomorrow there will be things to do, always is. But right now, in this moment, there's nowhere else I need to be and nothing else I need to do. The stars are coming out now, one by one, the same stars people have been watching from these mountains for as long as there have been people to watch them. And I sit here in my rocking chair, an old man with dirt under his nails and ramps in his pocket, feeling grateful for one more day, one more walk in the woods, one more chance to gather the wild treasures of this holler I call home. May you sleep well, friend, and may your dreams be peaceful as a quiet walk through the deep woods on a spring afternoon. May you wake rested, and may you carry with you the peace of these mountains, the calm of these old trees, the blessing of clean water and fresh air and the good earth under your feet. Rest now, rest easy. The woods will be here tomorrow, same as always, patient and eternal, waiting for the next person who wants to walk their paths and gather their treasures and sit quiet in their green shade. Rest now, and may God bless and keep you.